Hey everyone, welcome to January. It's certainly letting us know it's nice and chilly outside, but this month for our Quilt-Along, we have a really cool project for you. Cool being the opportune word here. We're going to be using fat quarters this month. Go pull out fat quarters from your stash. If you have a bundle you haven't used, now's the time to go get those. I'm going to be using this Moda bundle that I have right here. It's called Collections for a Cause, the Mill Book series, circa 1892. No, that does not mean I've had it since 1892, but it does say fall 2014. So this is probably about 4.5 years old. It's time to use it. So the first thing we're going to do is unpack it and know that I've already counted the fat quarters in here, and I know that there are 57 fat quarters in this pack, and I plan on using them all just because I want to get rid of this pack of fat quarters, but because I think these are some really beautiful colors that are going to go together very nicely in this quilt. So the first thing you want to do is unpack your fat quarters if they're in a bundle. Otherwise, what you need to do is go ahead and get them all pressed, and I'm going to go ahead and get these pressed, and then I'll meet you right back here, and we're going to do some cutting on these fat quarters. Very simple cutting today, and we'll show you how it's going to go. See you in a bit. And we are back. I have all of my fat quarters pressed. They're right here in this stack, and what I've done is I've put them in stacks of 4. Why? Because I know that I can effectively cut 4 layers at once and keep it accurate. If you're a new quilter and just feel comfortable doing 1 or 2 layers, perfectly fine, no problem. There are no quilt police here, and there is no judging here. This is a judgment-free quilt zone. So here we have our fat quarters, and I have it laying out. Let's see. Right. So 18 this way, 20 horizontally, and I have them stacked. See if I have them stacked accurately. I should have, because I did this while I was ironing. And what you're going to do is you're going to trim off your selvages. Now, I made it easier on myself because I went ahead and I put all of my selvages on the left-hand side. Now, this is where I'm going to say, don't do as I do, do as I say. Don't cut towards yourself. However, this is what works for me. Again, no quilt police, do what works for you. I've been doing this for, probably about 18 years. It's what works for me, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, so you cut your selvages off, don't need those. We still have the 20 inches that we need. Now you can either use the lines to measure on your cutting mat, or you can get a big ruler like I have here. This is a 15-inch ruler, and we're going to measure over 10 inches. So like I said, either use your cutting mat, the lines on your cutting mat, or use your ruler. I'm very picky about my cutting, so I'm going to use my ruler because I know the lines on my mat are worn. This is my original cutting mat, and it's old, and I don't trust it. So I'm going to do that. I lay this down at 10 inches. I bring my long one in, butt it up tight against, pull that away. Now I can comfortably cut, if you call this comfortable, my 10 inches. Okay, so when we're cutting these, this is actually going to make 2 blocks. We're cutting 2 blocks at the same time. 1 fat quarter will get you 2 blocks. Okay, so from your 10 inches, you're going to just sliver trim the bottom of your fabric so that you have a good straight edge down here. Again, I like using my big 15-inch square. If you don't have a 15-inch square, use whatever works for you. Okay? So now that we have that sliver trimmed, we're going to go ahead and cut a 10-inch square out of this. Make sure when you're cutting, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the lines on your ruler at 10 inches, and I'll bring this in closer to show you later, Make sure the line on your ruler is actually on your fabric, not on the edge, but your 10-inch line, in my case it's a black line on my ruler, that line is on top of my fabric so that I'm getting the full 10-inch width. So we're going to cut 10 inches off of there. These 10-inch squares are going to be our main blocks, the building block for our blocks. This is going to be the center. And when we get them put together, this is going to be a really wide, beautiful area to do some custom quilting in. So we'll lay those aside. I have a stack already started over there. Okay, and then this one, what we need is we're going to cut an 8-inch square. And we're doing that because we're going to subcut it, but we're doing the big cutting first, just because it's easier. And we are wasting very little fabric in this. We will use this little piece. There's a little bit at the top to sliver trim. We go ahead and sliver trim that also. Okay, once you get your 8-inch square cut, we're going to cut this into 4-inch squares is what we're going to cut it into. So I'm going to move mine over to 4 and still keep it down at the 8, because all I'm doing is just basically cutting it in half. Okay, so we're going to make that cut, and then we're going to switch it and make this 4 down here and the 8 on the side, and we're going to cut. Ta-da! 4-inch squares. Didn't have to touch the fabric, all I did was move the ruler. Put that over to the side with the rest of those. Now, out of this little strip here, this little strip should be 2 inches wide and 8 inches long, and it is. You can leave it like this if you have something else you want to do with it. I am going to use this for a pieced border. I already have it planned out, and I will be sharing that with you also. But I'm going to cut this down to 2 by 4. And that is just so that when I piece my blocks and I piece my quilt, I'm going to get a lot more variety in what I'm doing. So we've got these little 2 by 4s. Okay, if you noticed, I'm not adding my 1/2 inch for my seam allowance to any of this. And the reason is because it's just not going to be a 10-inch block or an 8-inch block. It's going to be really a little off from normal size. It's probably going to be about a 9.5-inch block if your 1/4-inch seam allowances are correct. Like I said, no quilt police here. So now we have the other half of that fat quarter. Do the exact same thing. We've got our straight edge on the left. We're going to sliver trim the bottom. And that's just to take off any folds and straighten it all up so that it's even. It's just going to give you a better, and I did just put a new blade in here. It's just going to give you a better overall look. Okay, now we're down to making the 10-inch square, and you're going to have a little extra on the side because a fat quarter is basically 22 inches, and when we trimmed off the selvage we didn't take 2 inches, so you're going to have a little bit over there. That little bit, and I'll show you how much it is. This little bit right here, this is the biggest amount you're going to have of waste fabric with this cutting diagram. Okay, again, there's our 10-inch squares. Put them over here. Now we're going to do the 8-inch square. Remember, this is your second block that you're getting out of this. And because I've stacked them all together, I'm going to get a whole lot more than just the 57 that I got. I'm actually going to get 114 blocks when I'm all done and ready to put this together. 114 blocks is probably way more than I need for the quilt that I'm going to use, and there's nothing wrong with that. If I have extra blocks, I will just go ahead and I'll make a second smaller quilt. Or depending on what it looks like and how I feel about it, I may just have 2 small quilts to begin with. Not sure what I'm going to do with it when I'm finished with it yet. But I do see great things with it because this is some really beautiful fabric, and I actually, got some plans to do some things with it. Like I said, make sure your blade is new. Mine is new. Not sure what it wants to do here, but okay. We'll go with it. There's my other 4-inch squares. This is my little piece. And yes, the man you saw walking in is my husband, and also my technical guru. He's the one that puts all these videos together for me and uploads them to YouTube. If you like what you see and you want me to be able to do more of these for you, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. And the more support we get, the more videos I'll be able to put together, because I know there's an interest out there for them. So, show me what you want to see. Go ahead and leave some comments and let me know what you think. Okay, that's just one set that I'm going to do for you. I've got all of my other sets here together. And like I said, I put them in sets of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and keep cutting these. And go ahead and cut yours up. Remember, 10 inches, 8 inches cut into 2 4-inch blocks, and then you've got a 2x4 and a 2x4. If you need written directions on this, I will have a link at the bottom of the video here when we get done and get it posted, so that all the directions will be on there and you won't have to try and come back and listen to me again. We'll have them printed for you. So I'm going to finish cutting my fat quarters. You go ahead and finish cutting your fat quarters, and we'll be back to start piecing here in just a minute. Here we are. I'm starting to work on the next one, and I wanted to show you a close-up of where my ruler marks are in regards to where the edge of my fabric is. As you can see, I'm trying to cut the glare. My ruler, the line on my ruler right here, it is on my fabric, not at the edge of my fabric, but it is on my fabric. Don't cut it so that your fabric just comes up to the edge. Okay, that's not getting you the full measurement. You want it completely on the edge of the fabric. Not quite that far, but you want those lines on the fabric. That is going to give you your full distance of cutting, and that is going to give you much better alignment and much better seams and more accuracy. So make sure the lines on your ruler are on the fabric when you measure to cut. And we are back. I have all of my squares cut. These are my 10-inch squares, 114 of them. And back here, you'll see that big stack is my 4-inch squares. 114 times 4, I'm not doing math tonight. But yeah, those are the big squares, and then the little pile behind it, those are all the 2x4 rectangles that we're going to put away and save for later. You may use them in this project, you may use them for another project. But for now, we're going to focus on the 10-inch squares, and we're going to focus on the 4.5 or the 4-inch squares. And unfortunately, we're going to have to do a little bit of measuring and cutting, measuring and sewing. And what I do appreciate is all of you being here with me and sewing this with me, or at least watching me sew, and not knowing what the pattern is going to look like when it's done, because you know what? I'm not even sure what it's going to look like. but let's get to it. All right, so here we go. I don't need those yet. And what I'm going to do is, you know those lines that we hate to draw? Well, I have a little ruler here, and you're just going from point to point, from corner to corner. You only need to draw one of them. And I'm using a pencil. The graphite will wash away, and it's very close to the same color, so it's not going to matter. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do all of these on camera, but you know what you have to do. And when you're stitching them, let's see. Let's pull out this square. You're going to take your big square, put your little square in the corner, and this method is lovingly called snowballing, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to snowball the corners of these big blocks. Now when you get ready, just sew, you could sew directly on the line, but what I prefer to do is stitch just off of the line towards the corner of the block. And that's going to give you a little bit of room in there for your thread and your seam allowance when you open it up, because eventually what you're going to do is cut that off, and then you're going to have this. And you're going to do this with all four corners on all of your large blocks. Excuse me. And my rule of thumb for me personally, with the huge selection that I have here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that every single little corner that I'm going to put on every quilt or on every block is going to have different fabric, because my selection is large enough. So I'm just going to randomly put some on here to show you. Now, even though this next one, it's the same pattern as this one, it's not the same color. So if I happen to pull this one out and put it on, then I'm okay with that. And let's see. Oops, I just mixed up my piles. Don't want to do that. Okay, we're going to get these out of here. Let's see. Here's one. We'll use this one. So this is my goal when I'm making my blocks. I'm going to make sure every 10-inch square has 4 different little squares on it. And because these two are from the same purple family, what I might do is something similar to this. And because I totally want to make it random and I don't want to just sit here and piece through these and pick each one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a box or a basket that I have here, and I'm just going to reach in and pull it out, and I'm going to use it. But the good thing is when you're doing these, which one did I mark? This one. When I'm doing these, I can chain sew them. Put this one in, sew it through, get my next big block, and I don't have to go through all the time of marking each and every one of those little squares. Just go in, pick one of my little squares that I'm going to use for the next block. Go ahead and mark it at this time. So I'm marking my little square. And then I can go ahead and feed it through the next one, keeping my threads together, and just keep chain stitching them the whole way through. And then once I get to the end of all of these that I've put one square on, come in and let's see, we're going to pick another square, and we'll draw the line on this one. Now, drawing this line, yes, is going to get a little tedious, but I can't wait to put these together. I can't wait to show you what this is going to look like. It's all in my head just yet, but I know with the fabrics that I've seen and what we're doing that they're going to look awesome. So we have that one on. Pretend it's stitched down. We're going to take the next one and we're going to go corner to corner with it. Again, so if your sewing machine moves the needle, move it one needle or one space towards the outside corner. If it doesn't, when you're sewing, just stitch just off of that line, a thread or two towards your outside point. So then we will go through and sew all of the second triangle or the second squares on top of all of the first squares that are already done. Keep going that way till you've got 4 different squares on all of your large squares. And then when you're done, you'll have all 4 corners on there. Let's just pick some and stick on here. This is what it will look like when you are all done. Well, right, we had that one there. But when you get to this point and you have them all stitched, what you need to do, okay, so you've got this line and this line and this line and this line. You have them all stitched. So what you need to do is take your ruler and your rotary cutter and come in, and I'm just going to use this one to show right now, but you're going to line up your 1/4 inch on your stitch line, and then you're going to trim these over all 4 corners. You're going to trim off your corners, and then you're going to take all of your blocks to the ironing board and you're going to press your corners open. And that is how you get the different corners on all of these. And that basically is your block. That is your block right here, in a nutshell. And then once you get all of these individual units made, just start putting them together. What I'm going to do is make sure I don't have anything the same touching anywhere. That's just me, and like I said, I've got a lot of variety, so that's how I'm going to handle it. This is going to be an excellent area to be able to do some awesome quilting in. You'll have 4 of these meeting together. Let's see if we can get 4 here to show you. I don't know if the video is set. Let me see if I can pan the video back out a little bit. Okay, let's get 4 of these set out so that you can see them. Let me move these out of the way. So here's one, whoops. Okay, and we put this one on here. Let's find a couple of other ones to put on here. And that way you can at least get an idea of what it's going to look like when you start doing yours. And this is how I know that this is going to be an awesome design, because I've already laid this out and looked at it. Let's see. No, we'll put that one on there because that one's the same one. All right, let's put this one on there. Now, if your stack of fat quarters was smaller than mine and you have a limited amount, then you may want to not vary it quite as much as I do. But there's 2. Let's try this one yet and do something awesome with this one. I'm really excited to get this project up and going. Okay, there's that one. And then I think what I'm going to do with those little 2x4 rectangles that we have, I think I may do some prairie points on the edges once I get to that point. that's just a thought that's in the back of my head right now. We'll see how that thought goes. But I think it's a good thought. I've never attempted prairie points before. So you know, this is a learning skill, and when it gets to that point, if I actually am going to do the prairie points on it, I will make sure I do a video so that you can all see it. Alright, let's get one more block in here. Move this one over. And let's do, so I want to give you all a chance to see some of the stuff, some of the different colors I have, so I want to make sure I'm pulling some ones that you haven't seen yet. But I just love this line of fabric. I didn't think I would when I bought it. This isn't my typical fabric, but you know, this may actually be what's going to go on my bed. Can't put my good one on it because the kitty cat and the doggy have lots of fur. Let's put this one over here. So yeah, my good flannel quilt cannot go on the bed just yet. But you know, this one, not flannel, don't have any immediate ties to it. This may be the new one that's going to go on my bed. And let's see, how about this one? And there you have it. And that's what it's basically going to look like in the very short form. This right here would be an excellent area to do some kind of quilting motif that's not too intricate, because you're going to have all of these seams in here and a big point. But this, man, you're just going to be able to go wild with it. And I can't wait to get started on it. And I hope you all are sewing along with me. And I'd like to see what you're doing with your fat quarters too. So when you get them done, feel free to give me a post on Facebook, on the Pine Hollow Quilts Facebook page, or to give me a couple of comments here on this video to let me know what you think. And until next time, we'll see you in February. Thank you.